This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, just wait for a minute. We'll be restarting because we are not able to hear your voice. Just give us a minute. We'll rectify it.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
Yes, Krishna, we can hear you. Please, you can start.
Okay. Just give me a minute. I'm just opening this. Okay. Okay, here you go. So there is some technical connection. No, I'm not able to hear you. So here it is. Like you just see the slide, and Krishna here. So having 15 years of experience in corporate development, and basically I'm a full stack developer. And after that, I led a positions like team lead, and after that, architect kind of roles. So I'll be working as a chief architect for a few companies. So here it with like I just want to define the structure of the software, whatever we design, and how it will be easier for the latest trends and technologies. So in the that perspective, so I just took up this particular sessions for the UI with the frameworks and libraries because we are going on this particular craze of whatever the Angular and React in the market. So, and also we are having a lot of job opportunities in this particular React and Angular. So to go up with this particular understanding of these particular latest frameworks and libraries, you need to have a basic awareness of how the HTML, CS, and JavaScript behavior of this particular thing. So basically, where we will be in implementing all those things, and what are we targeting to? It's a simple thing. So we are just targeting the websites and web applications for our latest technologies to be implemented in the front end so that we can minimize whatever the code we'll be using at the programming level, whatever at the backend level we call it as. And we will try to implement the more functionalities and whatever the basic crucial things in the front end itself so that if we can get the data from the backend, so it will be easier to display or whatever the filtering and sorting and whatever the components and other authorizations, all those things will be handled in the front end itself. Only you need a simple API from the database, or well, it is just getting the data through a communication or the source and how it will be and all. So if you can see the structure of this particular thing, so what is the main target of this particular websites and all? Any web pages and websites which we are targeting to, uh, we are just going to this particular principles of the web design. So the basic principles are, I listed a few, there are many, but most of the things, like it will be like all those the principles of the web design will be like all the listed things which are you are seeing in this particular slide. So we need to consider in this particular in mind, and we need to develop our applications. So I'm talking about the web apps means web applications, and mobile apps means mobile applications. So in this particular session, we are going to cover the entire development in the UI with the React.js and AngularJS, and we will be implementing the web applications, how you have to implement and the full length of whatever the components and the contents will be including in this. And I have seen some attachment in this whatever promotion in the promotions. I think there is some attachment is replaced over there. So I'll also go through the course content in this particular session also after this particular presentation. So don't get confused like you don't have the topics on this particular Angular and React. So I'll show you that. So this is just a consideration of any web applications which we are keeping in mind, like availability, performance, and reliability, scalability, and manageability and cost. So each and every company or a promoter of a website, or whatever the whatever the client regarding to this particular website development, so they have to think about all those things, and yeah, by the end of the day, they need to um, have a cost-effective and manageable, which is a scalable, reliable website, and which is giving the performance, and which is available to the user perspective. Like the end user should have to be a good user interface, and it's a attractive user interface by the end of the day. So to add this all those things, we just have to go through this particular structure of this particular whatever the core component of the web applications. So the basic understanding of this particular thing is just I have included some server and the client and the whatever the internet in between. So whatever the web browsers will be getting that particular whatever the web application, it is through internet, and the front end part, whatever the web pages it is dealing with, those includes the HTML, JavaScript, and the CSS. So if you can go to any application, so whatever the applications you are looking into, like whichever the development it is, the front end part, it will be into the HTML or whatever the kinds of HTML. So it will be like giving you the front end HTML like that, and the coloring thing and some styling part and the structure part of your HTML, which is adding by this particular CSS, and JavaScript is the interactivity to user interactivity to this particular front end. So where we are defining all these libraries and frameworks on the basis of this particular JavaScript only. And here we are coming to this particular JSON with the server, and also the server, it may be with any programming language, or also we can have and the methods of retrieving the data which is stored at the database or in any other cloud servers. So currently we are using some cloud servers like AWS and Firebase database, and lot many technologies nowadays we have evolved with. So like we can get the data from any of those particular things, and we will show you uh, in this particular session. We will cover a few of the databases, how it will be connecting, and how you retrieve the data, and how you store the data using these particular frameworks and libraries, and what is the particular logic it will be defining and all. But here in the programming languages, most of the programming languages like Java, .NET, and all, so they will be converting the data, and whatever to store the data or to retrieve the data, the programming language will develop an APIs, which is nothing but the application programming interfaces, to fetch the data and to push the data to the front end. So in the front end, they can display this particular data accordingly using our frameworks and libraries. So this is how the mechanism it will be running in the world. So currently they are each and every one is looking under front end management. So that is the reason this particular frameworks and libraries have been evolved in this particular scenario. So whatever I'm talking in this particular session, we will be talking about the UI. UI means the front end, which covers this DOM or whatever the framework. DOM is nothing but the document object model, how this name has been evolved and all. Mostly like if you are not a freshers, and I think it's uh, you are all freshers or any other experienced people, you may know about DOM and HTML, CSS. But we will be covering all those basics in the first two sessions about what are the basics and all. So I just give you mostly the overview of this particular HTML and whatever the UI front end and all. So which is very most important for our session to start with. And also like the request layer, which we call it as a web API or REST APIs. So it will be like request layer to fetch the data from the backend. So backend data, it may be like a database or the logic, and you may get it from any other service or whatever. We will see a lot many varieties in this particular session. So while discussing fetching the data into our application. So the front end, we are concentrating on the only on the front end development. So what are the front end languages we will be defining? So HTML is a front end language where it will be like the language defining the defining on the web pages using the HTTP protocol is nothing but the HTML language, which is a hypertext markup language. Precisely like each and every information will be inside a markups with the tags, and we generally call it as elements. So inside our HTML. So these are all the most popular things, and whatever the website it will be or web application it will be, the basic things you are roaming around with these technologies only, the HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript. So that is the reason. So we are just looking at this particular document object model and how the document, how the web page it will be like. So generally the document will be the root document. So we call it as a document for each and the so front end it is called as a web page. So what is the structure behind this particular in our .html, whatever we defining or whatever we developing, that is called as a document object model. So a document is nothing but a page and which is having the core root element called HTML, and it will contains the head, body, and all those whatever the body related things like whatever you want to display inside our web page, that is comes under the body with all those text information or links, images, videos, audios. Everything will be there inside that. And whatever the page related things, whenever we want to load some script and we want to load some styles and all, everything will be configured in the head, and which is like whenever your page is loading, then you need to get all those things done and ready to be displayed inside our implementation. So it needs to like the web page should have to load with everything with the package, and it has to execute with a good user interactivity. So by end of the by end of the site, so whatever the site development, so you need to have a good user interface, and then only the clients will be running around that particular thing. So here we are talking about some framework. So what is this particular framework? And it is evolved from the software framework to reduce the overhead in the web development. So there are some architectures and there are some frameworks evolved on these particular languages what we have, and we will be implementing uh, in a few of the frameworks like for example, if you can see the MVC is a famous for the architecture, and three-tier architecture is the architecture still we are using, but it is a older one, and now everyone is looking after this particular MVC and all. So the architecturing of what is this particular architecture and how we gonna implement, and what are the things we need to implement in this particular architecture is nothing. You just have to frame your content and whatever your structure of your project, how you are implementing and how you are generating the code and how you are making that reusable and which is available to each and every implementation. So you just have to uh, have that hassle free, like you just have to implement in a such easiest way to understandable and to which will gives you the good performance for the end user is nothing but that particular frameworks and architectures is talking about. And in this particular frameworks, we will be having a server-side frameworks and the client-side frameworks, and mostly like we will be using this particular client-side Angular, React, Vue, Backbone, Ember, and a lot many things we are having. And coming to the server-side frameworks and Django, the Ruby on Rails, and most of the other things with the MVC, even the .NET, ESP.NET will be having that particular architecture, the framework, the server-side framework with MVC is possible over there. So generally talking about the MVC, so we are making some model view and the controller. So where this particular technology will talks about the uh, where the data for the DOM is stored and handled, it will be like we'll be calling it as a model, and whatever the front end view will be displaying in the DOM, that is called as a view. And whatever this particular interactions will be handled by the control, which is like controllers will be having so whatever the events and so form submissions and whatever the general interface related to this particular thing, so it will be handled like that. And what is this particular backend? So backend is like whatever the runs on your application, so which is getting that particular logic, business logic regarding to your application, which is you are trying to fetch the data or store the data or add some interaction when the user is interacted. It needs some data to be fetched or data to be stored while doing this operation. So whenever the project was implemented, so all these backend operations, it will be implemented on that. Anybody talking here? Okay. Oh, while going the session, if you want to talk anything, so just unmute yourself and then and all rest all the time you just mute yourself so that the disturbances will not affect to the other people. Okay. And here we are talking about the web APIs. Web APIs is nothing but the connection layer between the front end and the back end, and we'll be using some API calls like post, get, and put. If you are fresher to the all these technologies, don't get confused. We'll be explaining everything and in the later coming sessions. So these are all how it will be backend will be managing and all. So based on the server architecture that drives everything for that particular whatever the data and how it will be connected to the front end and all. So basically, this is basic information of what the web API and how it will be consuming and what are the details it will be needing for an API to have this particular connection to the database or whatever from the data to the front end logic. It is just an interface between the front end and the back end, and it is consuming using the signature content negotiation and with the response codes. And how the response codes it will be, and how to handle the multiple versions, and everything will be like this. And we'll be sometimes we'll be using we will call it as a REST APIs, which is with the client server model, which is like a stateless and resource based. So we can also implement that particular calls using the HTTP methods. We will be using this particular thing. So whatever the terms we will be using in this particular web API, we will be using some get, post, put, patch, whatever the custom related. So these are all the terminologies we'll be using while implementing the application when we are taking care of this particular data. So, and it is also like we are just saying that APIs are running on this particular status codes, which is like the web will be understanding about this particular status codes, and it will be running inside your console and whatever your debugger properties of your browser. You can see in that particular browser. So we'll be having a developer tools with all these options. It will be available in the slides in the performance or whatever the web related things I will show you in our examples of where it will be and all. So these are all some status codes on based on this particular thing. So the operations will be done from the web API. So whatever it is available or not, or no content or bad request or unauthorized, if you are not authorized to see that content. So these are all the status codes, and if it is not available, it will be so whenever the page or the request is not valid or not available, so we'll be getting some 403 and 404 kind of thing. So now coming to this particular thing, so we are understanding this particular HTML and with CSS and JavaScript. So HTML is the basic information where you display your content in the front end, and CSS is used to like add some attraction to uh, your website, like which is the presentation of your entire content. So where the interaction part will be dealing with this particular JavaScript. So user interactions and the user, whatever user want to have this particular sorting and what of sorting, filtering and inputting and form submission. So how the user is interacting and clicking or whatever the events will be handling in the front end. So that will be taken care of the JavaScript. And the JavaScript was evolved. So basically, like these are all the web terminologies which was evolved from the W3C. Are you already aware of these particular terminologies? So WWW consortium, which was evolved and which is like the to show the information in a media called the web browsers. So initially it was like a SGML, standardized general markup language, and later it was as the protocol evolved with the HTTP. It was the language was defined as a HTML, and from there the versions have been evolved. And currently we are working on this HTML5, which is the standardized version for all the web browsers, and it is the latest browser terminology what we are using, and the technology in this HTML5 is as simple as you understand, and it is having a better features compared to your previous HTML versions, and it is running fine with all those whatever the things it is with this HTML5. It is rocking from last many years because there is no other version is upcoming for this particular HTML5 because it is stable. So that is the reason there is no other version was evolving right now. And coming to this JavaScript, okay, in the meanwhile, like CSS is used for this styling purpose. And also on the basis of this CSS, and you can also do your website in a responsive view. Currently, the world is running on the responsive view because we are all holding the world on your hands with your mobile phones and tablets and whatever. Nobody's looking into this particular laptops or whatever this. You want the matter to be ready in your hand, so which is in your phone. So you need to get access on this particular phones and all. So that is the reason. So everything was like the basically the responsive web design is the main motto of each and every web application what we are deploying. So so that is the reason. So CSS, using the CSS with the frameworks, we are having some grid layouts for the web pages so that we can have the responsive view for the across all the devices whenever we are talking to. So the website or web application should have to be visible according to the layout of the mobile or layout of the tablet what we are targeting to see that particular website in our devices. So a responsive web design will be achieved through this particular grid layout frameworks, so which is based on this particular CSS, and mostly we'll be using Footer Bootstrap, or you can have the whatever the foundation, and lot many frameworks are there, but we are familiar with the Bootstrap, which is mostly craziest thing, and which is having the grid structure. So we will be also discussing some of the a few points which are important for this particular session. And we are while talking to this particular Bootstrap, so we are talking about the Bootstrap 3 version, and the latest release is available with Bootstrap 4 as well. So how you can understand and how you can integrate the Bootstrap also, we will have a session in this particular course. And coming to this JavaScript, so JavaScript is a basic functionality which will be having some methods and whatever the variables you'll be defining, and how you manipulate the content, and how do you do with your business logic inside your content. It will be like inside your the HTML back, so which is like a client server coding. So this JavaScript is evolved from the global standards of the scripting languages, which is from the ECMAScript. So ECMAScript is the global standardized language specification. So where we are working on that particular thing, and there are so many languages which was evolved on the basis of this particular global standard scenario. So where the JavaScript is one of the most browser understandable scripting language to work with any content manipulations using this particular business logic coming to this. And there are so many libraries and frameworks evolved on the basis of the JavaScript, because JavaScript is the only browser understandable language which where you convert your code, whatever the programming language you will be doing. So each and everything will be bundled and saved into a .js file by the end of the deployment. So when it's going to live, the website or the web application, that will be in the JavaScript only. You can see any other websites. Okay, so that is the reason. So JavaScript was evolved into different shapes with the frameworks and libraries. Initially, a libraries, and what is a library? So library is nothing but a collection of whatever your functionalities and methods, and which was defined into a collection as a library. So library is nothing but all this. jQuery was evolved on this particular thing. So jQuery is the first library. Like there are so many, but it was like the most familiar and most usable use cases will be defined in jQuery, and jQuery is the base to evolve so many other frameworks as well. And what is the difference between this particular library and a framework? So what is this particular library and what is the framework? And library is the backend script log where you can manage your code and whatever you can interact everything in this particular script file. Where this particular framework will also go into this particular front end, which is the templates, and it will be including in this particular someone. Yes, actually, I'm talking about those technologies. I don't have the slides related to it, so I'm just talking about it. Okay. So this is about all those things. So I just to give you the brief overview on those particular things. So here it is like, so we're coming to this particular thing. So we are into this particular Angular. So what is this particular? So the frameworks we are talking about. The frameworks we will be defining like a lot many frameworks we have, but here in our scenario, in the latest scenario, we'll be like using the JavaScript framework, which is used to have this particular create reactive single page applications using this particular Angular. Okay, so Angular is one of the most familiar framework, and which was incorporated nowadays by the Google, and it is maintaining by that Google. So which is like everyone is using that. And React is also another library where we are implementing on this, and which was developed by this particular Facebook people. So whatever the brand it was creating an image in the market, which is like giving more interactivity, and which is like all the people are like based on those particular frameworks and libraries. So the technology is shaping up with good support and all. So whatever the software or whatever the framework and whatever the libraries we will be defining, that will be depends upon the support and all. So here, what is the main purpose of this Angular is it is just a framework which is making easy to create some reactive applications, which is mainly intentionally to achieve the single page application architecture. And what is this particular single page application architecture, and how it is different from the single page application architecture and multi-page application architecture? So it's a simple understanding like multi-page application architecture. Whenever you are submitting or you are calling another page, the request has to go to the server and it has to get the page and it has to get another response for to access another page. So every time the page will be submitting to the server and it is getting a new request to show another page. But here in the single page applications, you can route the content inside our application according to our need. So whenever you click on this particular thing, so the content will alter or the content will route to the whatever the view part will be targeting. So it was not like a page submission. The page will be getting the new content on basis of your content routing. So this is how, and it will lead to some performance and all. So firstly, like primarily we will be talking about uh, Angular. So Angular was evolved in different shapes. Now the Angular 8 is also coming up. So here is the history of this particular thing. So Angular 1 was Angular 1 with it was mainly came into the market in 2009, which was developed, and it was 2010 it was familiar as Angular JS. And here, AngularJS is completely on the basis of the JavaScript terminology, what we'll be using this JavaScript coding and all in this Angular 1. And it was evolved in the different versions like Angular, and now it was like Angular 1.7 is in the AngularJS. But after a couple of years, like 2016, it was completely rewritten into Angular 2, with was like there are some incremental approach, and it was like a language defined on the basis of the TypeScript. So where we will be using some TypeScript, where which is like JavaScript is normally a good language, but TypeScript provides more strong types whenever we are defining the contents. So it will be like your Java code or your whatever your .NET code. It's just similar to those particular things. So because here the types of your data will be defined, and whatever your inheritance and the classes and import exports, everything will be there in this particular terminology of the TypeScript. So that is the purpose Angular is choosing the TypeScript for the Angular 2 development, and which is targeting more mobile applications in mind. So Angular 2 was evolved on those particular AngularJS. And currently, AngularJS is also in the market, and where you can make use of the AngularJS with simple applications. And also, Angular 2. From the Angular 2, it was called it as Angular, not AngularJS. So it will be called as an Angular, and it was evolved into different shapes with the 2, 4, 5, and 6 and 7. So currently we are in this particular 7, and also I will give you the complete overview of the Angular 8, how it will be evolved this particular shape, and what is the changes between the version to version and all. I will give you the complete overview and structure and how you implement these particular Angular implementations. So we will see in our session. So this is what the evolution of the AngularJS and Angular, and there are some features. It will be so if you can see, Angular was evolved with Angular 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and on it was like 8 was evolved. And Angular JS, it was from 1.0, 1.1 to 1.7 is the latest, and 1.7 point something is that. I will show you that particular thing in the official websites, how it will be and all. So here, if you can see, these are all some features of the Angular JS, and it is a fully featured SPA framework. and it is having a lot many features like this, and these are all some important features where you work with this particular Angular JS. And this is all giving you the good structure to define the web applications based on this particular Angular JS. And we'll be discussing everything in detail while doing the programming. And Angular is more into like ECMA ES6 standard with the TypeScript support. So we are talking about the ECMAScript standard. So globally, AngularJS is based on the ES5 standard, and Angular is completely on ES6, which is like a TypeScript support, and it is improving more speed and performance, and it is a modular approach too, and it supports the mobile tablets and all, so it is having a lot many compiler improvements, and we'll be using a lot many libraries using some other third-party Node modules using the Node.js, Node package manager and all. So it is completely developed on this particular environment like this. So this is like I just mentioned like a 6 version over here, but whatever the Angular version, it is completely on this particular Node.js and with the Angular libraries and also the CLI commands, how it will be working, and we will be structuring our Angular code and shaping up into a code inside our development. So we'll be using this particular scenario inside our development. So this is simple structure of this Angular, and where the Angular 7 will be defined with some other structural directives, and there is some enhancement. It has happened in the Angular 7. The major differences are here. So with the 6 and 7 and all. So what are the incremental, so new features and upgrades in 7? So there are some CLI prompts have been so there is a changes in CLI prompts, and it is just defining the application whenever we are working with the CLI. There is some CLI prompts. It was added to Angular 7 version, and there is an application performance issues there, and materials CDK, improved accessibility, documentation updates, IV progress. All those are the new features, like new, not the new features. Some one are new features, and some or application upgrades. You can talk it as upgrades in Angular 7. So comparatively, like how it will be like JavaScript, how it will be, you will be defining in the Angular JS, and how it will be in the Angular JS. The code structure, everything will be like this. And if we can see here, the JavaScript, the body is a HTML thing, and whatever the you will be defining using the Angular module like this. And here in the Angular 2, wherever the right side part is the TypeScript code, so it will be like it will be defining the component selectors, types, and everything will be defined like this. So don't get confused. We just going through this particular code like that, and it is a basically. I just want you to define some examples on how the JavaScript and how the TypeScript it will be, and how the Angular and how the Angular JS will be. So the basic implementation is like this. So if you can see the JavaScript code over here, and what is the TypeScript and how it is typing, and how is the JavaScript is rewriting in your TypeScript, you just have to simple implementation over here. So it is just whatever you see, either in the TypeScript is mapping with everything like with the typing. So in the even in the functionality also, you can implement the typing whenever it was needed, all those things. So while going to this particular implementation of the TypeScript, we will have some sessions like how the TypeScript it will be and how it should have to write instead of your JavaScript in our implementation. But here,
Hi Krishna, Naresh here. Quick question. So if I want to implement if you want to create a new web application, so which one I need to prefer, like the Angular JS or Angular?
it depends upon your need. What is your end product? So what is your requirement to define this web application?
Okay. Okay. So which one is preferable, like in the considering the optimization, performance, and all? So should we go with the Angular JS, or is there any criteria? So which one we need to prefer like that? I mean,
So
the
if you
Angular
want to go
JS.
with the if you want to go with the good performance and also like mobile enhancement and all, you just go with the Angular.
Got it.
Yep. Okay, and here, so what are the building blocks of this particular Angular will be like, we are having some directives with the components, attributes, and structural, and data flow will be like interpolation, event binding, two-way binding, and there are some features, and we'll be using some services with the reusable logics and data storing manipulations and libraries. We'll be using all those building blocks whenever we are trying to implement in our Angular. So this is how it will be like. There are a lot of things in the Angular JS, and it will be like this. And there are some positives and negatives also in this particular Angular JS. While you go with this particular, uh, the green ones are the positives, and whatever the negatives, it will be like this. And it is not a negative. It is just compared to any other library, how it is implementing and all. It is just giving you the simple thing like it is not as SEO friendly as desired, and it is enormously slow when we are dealing with the complex and huge data and all. So left all the things are very good interactive features, and whatever the good solution for the dynamic applications and fast development process, and all those things are there. So most preferably, these whatever the frameworks you are using and frameworks and the libraries, these are all coming with the testing methodologies where you can test your functionality or your use cases in the front end itself. So once you got tested and once you verified with your testing and all, you can deploy, you can go ahead with the deployment in the front end. So that is the major advanced things and advantages about this particular frameworks and libraries what we are discussing in this. So coming this particular React is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. It is also the like similar replica of Angular, and also like you can make use of React or Angular, but in some cases, and the environment is little similar comparatively with React and Node.js. So it is also like the browser will have the updates from the React, and React will work on the basis of Node.js, and the page rendering, HTTP requests, everything will be taken care of the Node, where we are defined the same structure, similar structure in the Angular as well. So this is the simple structure of how it will be. And coming to this particular React is React, everything will be like there are no such HTML pages except your root page. There is only index.html page will be there in the React implementation. So while implementing, you will be having all the .js files or .jsx files, which is with the React extension, JavaScript files, and everything is here. You can render your HTMLs or whatever your HTML template components inside your return function like this. If you can see here, there is a render function with the return. Inside that, there will be a div block. It is there. So this is a simple example of how the React components you are implementing inside your implementation in React. So where the Angular is coming with the .html pages, .ts pages, and whatever the .js pages and .css. And here the React will comes with the JS and whatever the component, like the components, the pages, the templates will be including in that. And how the React will taking care of this particular thing, if you can see the rendering and properties change, state change, and whatever the compile, it will be, it is having the different phases, and these are all the methods we will be using, and we'll be having the final output will be like rendering into our implementation. So there are some positives and there are some negatives as well in this. React also requires some core changes in some cases, and it is view oriented and requires the manual processing of the data changes, and left all the things, it is good to go, and it is very fast when it is coming to display the big amount of the components. So how it is like, it is a little SEO friendly. So you just compare with React, and when you are working with a huge complex data, you need to compare the framework then. So you need to target, and you need to keep in mind what is your main motto of your application development. So how many users you'll be accessing and what are the features you'll be looking at, and then you decide your technology, how it will be and all. So if you want a more SEO friendly and more faster accessibility with more complex data, then you choose the React. And if you are using little complex one and with little SEO friendly, then you can have to implement this Angular. And again, in this React, there are some code changes in some cases. So we need to define each and everything with some implementation. So this is a comparison of how your Angular JS and React and Angular. So it will be all this complete structure. It will be like this. So it is the older slide. It is not a latest comparison. So it is having some 3 years, and it is a 1 year older one. So if you can see here, and the main thing when I'm talking about this particular speed, the Angular is taking 1.35 seconds to execute the particular speed, and it is taking 310 milliseconds. Uh, so which is like the performance will be coming into this particular picture. It will be like that. And we will be using the browser as a DOM, and here the virtual online only the renders will change the data whenever we are having this particular patching mechanism in the React. And we will be having MVC framework in the Angular, and in the React we'll be having the view component. So everything is here is just a view component and learning curve. And as you understand the JavaScript, you can easily implement this particular React.js, and easier to start if you are a JavaScript guy. And if you are a new guy, both are difficult. But difficult at the first and requires knowledge of the specific concepts such as DOM directives, filters, and factories. There is some learning curve in this particular AngularJS, and it is if you go through this particular thing, so it will be implemented on this particular thing. And coming to this particular structure of the AngularJS, it is completely based on HTML, JS, and the TS files will be converted to .js extension when you deploy this particular Angular application, and the CSS part is the remaining it is as is. And here, if you can see, React will renders only JS and JSX files. So it doesn't have the HTML. It integrates the whatever the HTML part of the templates and all inside your JS and JSX. So this is all about this particular React and Angular. So coming to this particular course content, we are having this particular course content here. Okay, this is the actual course content. So how we will be defining this particular course content. So the course was divided into 35 sessions. It will be like 35 sessions, but we are targeting, so sometimes it may go to a few more sessions based upon your requirements. So if you need some clarity or some more examples in that particular concept, we will be extending those particular things based upon your request and based upon your clarity and more examples. So we first start with this particular UI course, and which is like we will be covering some of the basic things about the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, and the Bootstrap, how you include this particular Bootstrap in the normal website scenarios, and how you evolve, and so how you get evolved with this particular HTML structure, and what are the tools we'll be using for this particular UI technologies and all. So we will be discussing this particular HTML tags and all. So hope you got this content for this particular Mr. Shivram Krishna, like what is the difference between Angular and React? So both are used to develop complex UI applications, but Angular is a framework and React is a library. So which it was like defined everything on the basis of scripting level in the React. So you need to implement each and everything, and you need to develop on the basis of the scripting in React. And Angular will be defining each and every component in the HTML, and there will be some scripting also in this particular thing. So I'll show you in the code how it is different and how it will be like. So each and every component will be having .html, .ts, and .js files, .css files, React will be working on the basis of the components with only the script files. That is how it is faster access while comparatively with the Angular. Okay. Okay. So coming to this particular session, so in this particular session, we will be covering all the HTML elements and what are the HTML elements it will be. And in the session 2, we will be discussing about the CSS and how the CSS read will be and what are the boxing borders. And these are all very basic levels. I just give you the complete, not complete thing. So it is just the 10% of the content I'll be giving you. You just have to go through those particular concepts and evolve more concepts on the basis of those things. You need to practice like that. So because it is just it is not possible to cover each and individual the basic thing over here like a spoon feeding, because we are targeting on the other things, so where you can work on those things and you can also implement parallelly with the basic things whatever you are implementing. And here we are also discussing the bootstrap framework and how the grid it will works on your web pages and all. And then we will go to the JavaScript, and then how the JavaScript, this JavaScript is like a ES5 with the standard 5 ECMAScript 5 standard, and ES6, coming to the ES6, it is coming into this particular advanced JavaScript, which is useful to understand the next level coding with the jQuery, whatever the React and Angular. And we also cover some jQuery if needed. So if the time permits, the jQuery will also give you a simple structure and how the jQuery is available and how you have to include the jQuery inside your HTML, JavaScript, and all, and some events, so that it will makes you some difference. So how you uh, handle this particular events and how you have this particular click events or other events whenever you are working with some user interactivity and some functionalities you will be implementing inside your code. You just have to go through this particular events and some of the jQuery things with the data binding and all. And after covering in this particular 6 sessions, or the first 5 sessions will be like it will be taking in a week. And after that, we will be discussing. We'll start it with this particular React.js, and we'll be covering what is this particular React.js and how the real world SPAs and what are the web applications and how to code this particular React and what are the things it will be like. A complete course outline of this particular React and what is the environment needed for this particular React, and we will be discussing everything. And also we'll be having this particular module introduction with how the JS and JSX formats different in React, and how you understand this particular children component, states, properties, everything will be here. So this is the complete content overview with React, and so the most things like you can get the content, theoretical content from the video, and you just implement each and everything inside our practical implementation here. And each and every session will be having an assignments. So each and every session what we are taking with, so every day we'll be having some assignments. So if you can see that particular assignments, if you can practice that particular assignments, and if you can get back to us to email on whatever the means of communication provided by the organizer, so we can discuss on those particular thing. And also like the sessions will be like this. So deeper dive into this particular life cycle and some of the life cycle methods in the React. And also we will be reaching out to the web APIs and how to get the data, post the data, and actually making some interceptors and infinity loops, and how we'll be making some calls to the data servers or whatever we are hosting on this particular thing. And we will be demonstrating on a sample databases, which will be like a Firebase, which we are considering here, which is like a simple and easy to understand, which is promoting by the Google. And also you can have those particular similar structure implementation to any other APIs you'll be using with any other databases, and in the backend you can make use of any other programming languages. You need some APIs, and that APIs will be configured and how it will be, and we will be showing you on this particular session. And also like multi-page feeling and single page app, and the routing thing, and how you structure your content, and everything will be here. And what are the things we need to consider while do with this particular single page applications with active roads, and handling the error cases and lazy loading and all those things. And whenever your page is getting loaded, you need to configure the lazy loading configuration. So the page is loading, you don't have to see to the user, like you don't have to show the user a blank page. Okay, it has to do something interactivity over there, so that will be configured in this particular loading the routes lazily. Then it has to get the response from that particular server. And we are having some form validations and a lot many other things, and while doing with this particular form validations and fixing an errors, everything will be there. And some important point here is like Redux is another thing, which is like to manage the states inside your programming, which is giving you the better performance for your React applications. So this was defined in this particular Redux, and this is having a lot of scope in the Redux. So once you understand this particular Redux, you will be getting more scope in this particular Redux, and there are a lot many things. So only thing is I just guide you guys with this particular coding, and also whatever the Redux and React it will be. So how to deal with this asynchronous code, and how to create the creator, store, and restructuring the actions. So there are a lot many things over here in this particular thing. And finally, we will be coming to this particular testing. So how you test your uh, React code, and what are the terminologies, or what are the libraries, or what are the other things we'll be using for this particular testing methodology, and how you test your code, and how you deploy your things. And we'll be having some project like this is a build project, which is a UI complex one, and we will go through some of other examples as well in this particular session. And later on, we will be having this particular session. From the session 17, we will be having the Angular JS introduction, and we will cover up some of the Angular JS coding, which is the basic JavaScript coding. And then we will try to figure out some Angular JS application, and then we will switch to the single page applications in the Angular JS, and then we will go to the Angular, how it will be rewriting this Angular JS into Angular with the TypeScript and all, and what is the environment it is needing, and what is the CLI, and how the project will be set up, and what are the different things it will be needed for this particular things, and everything is same. And here the what is the data binding, and what are the components over here, and how you do with the components, and what are the directives we'll be having, and what are the binding things, and how you define those bindings and all. In this particular Angular, we will go through this, and we will also define some services, dependency injection, and we will be also implementing the single page application architecture using the routing over here, and some of the understanding the observables over here. So which is like the basic thing, like how we are implementing React with some of the terminologies, and here Angular will be having some of the terminologies, and you need to understand both of things, and you need to have this particular thing. And how you handle the forms in this particular Angular apps. Angular will be having two types of forms over here, which is like template driven and reactive approach, and we will see all those particular template driven and also the reactive approach, and how it will be, and we will see those things. And also the output formatting, we will be using some pipes, so there are some custom pipes, and more interactivity, and how you get the HTTP requests, and using the databases, using making the HTTP requests using this particular thing, and also the authentication, route protection, and this particular Angular, and how you optimize your Angular modules with optimizing the apps, and what is the future for this particular web application, and how you deploy this particular Angular applications, and how you add your Angular animations, and all everything will be here. And the basic unit testing, and in the Angular applications, what are all the things we'll be using in this particular Angular applications, and custom project with the what is the workflow will be, and what are the enhancements for this particular Angular. You can also like develop the mobile applications based on the Angular, but you need to have some other framework you need to include in this particular thing, like Ionic or some other which is the reactive. Also for the React, it will be like React Native, And there are some mobile application frameworks where it will be like giving you a simple understanding about mobile applications development. So this is the course overview, and it will be having the 35 sessions we are targeting with, and it may leads to like some other sessions, 45 sessions it will be. And if you have any doubt,
yeah, sorry to interrupt you. Hi everyone, a small info from my end. The batch is starting from Monday, day after tomorrow onwards. And for other details, please do reach us or please check your mails. Thank you.
okay. Okay, just a couple of minutes like Angular, what is this particular Angular and what is this particular React? So Angular is officially available at angular.js.org, and this is the basic Angular JS. And if you want to try with the Angular, it is available with angular.io, where it is like one framework, mobile and desktop. If you can see here, this is the official website. It is available for the more information. You can go here, and for React.js is available in react.js.org. So we'll go through this particular whatever the websites it will be giving you, and also don't get confused with this particular websites and all. So I'll give you what are the things you need to have to get it from this particular websites and how it will be, and I'll make you sure that by end of this session's completing. So I just want to make you sure you just get some brief idea about how to develop these applications using this particular React, and how to develop the applications using the Angular. And this is very simple, and but you need to have to go through this particular whatever the we'll be giving, and we'll be sending you some offline videos, whatever class it will be, and be regular to the class, and also like some come up with some interactive ideas. And if you are having any other doubts, just post us and get clarified. And also we'll be sending you the whatever the examples will be showing over here, and I'll be sharing you those particular examples to your whatever your emails registered with us. Okay, so this is all about today. So this is just a demo introduction. So I just give you the brief overview of how the technologies and how it will be evolved and all. So we'll have some other sessions as well. So in the next coming up first session, so we'll be discussing some of the overviews and how the HTML and websites it will be evolving, and also you have some direction on those things. So if you have any doubts, please let me know in this technology perspective. So I'll give you this particular thing. I'm open to the questions now.
Hi Krishna, why are you taking React and Angular both together? Is there any specific reason?
So earlier we started with the batches like Angular only and React only, but now the market is running behind this particular Angular and React. If you are an UI developer, so if the company may offer you for the Angular development or React development, but you need to get up with both. So we are covering both inside this particular course.
Okay, fine. So probably I have another question. Probably this is for the career IT guys. Like, is there any weekend batch for this for working professional?
Generally, this patch is for the professionals only. This was conducted on the morning. 7 to 8 is the timings actually.
Okay.
So if you are not feasible on those particular things, so some of the people are asking for that weekend batches as well. So if you can post a mail to the career IT people, so they will get back to you on these
Sure.
things.
Thank you, Krishna. So, are we doing a real project, or a dummy project to go so that we go through the entire life cycle of a project at the end of the
So
course?
see, it is on your words only. So the real project is coming from the real requirement. But here I will give you the real time scenario, how it will be like, how you pose with the real time data.
Okay.
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 So that is about this session.
Yeah, Krishna, this is Teja.
Hi. Yeah.
How many days it will go on the like 45 sections if we are not completing the section within the day? The next day it will be taking the second section or the continuing of the on the first section.
So sessions will be divided on the basis of this particular content only. So each and every day we will be covering from 1 hour to 1.5 hours. It depends on the topics what we have chosen, but we have already planned these sessions according to the days only. So generally, like 35 sessions, it will take 7 weeks. So weekly 5 days and 7 weeks it will take. So it may extend to another week. That's it. 8 weeks. We just have to target with 2.5 months.
Yes, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, you have done. You have divided the sections. So according to the sections, the daily weightage will follow in that one only.
Yes. Each and
Correct.
every day we'll be having that particular session. Session one will be taken care and
Okay.
one.
Okay. My question is that if not completed, what will be the next step? Whether they will go on the continuous or will start the next section tomorrow.
I'm not understanding. So the session will be completed in a day, or if it is breaking in between, it will be continued in the next session.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that is only I got that because the schedule is for you. The schedule is been planned for 35 days.
Yeah, but
If
we
the
will
complete is
have some
not
buffer
completing, whether
time.
you complete it will in the end day.
Yeah, I'll be
Okay.
completing in next day because some days we might have some work and we don't have to take some
Mm.
session, and some days due to some technical reasons it may not complete in within the time. So we will post those
Yes. Yes.
particular things in the next session and we'll cover it up.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Krishna.
Yeah.
Hi Krishna, is it an online only session or the classroom session? This batch?
This batch actually, if you are based on Hyderabad, you can come to the offline session as well. But this is purely an online session.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Chakrapani garu, we do have offline. The batch was started already. So I'll give those details. Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Any questions? Any other questions?